Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And it's taken me a long time to get to Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune, but here we are. And just so you know, I'm just going to refer to it as Wangan for the rest of this video, because I do not want to trip over that about 10 times. But it is an absolutely spectacular arcade-exclusive racing series developed by Bandai Namco. And if you like arcade racing games, you're going to absolutely love what is on offer here. Now, we are just playing 5 vanilla, that's just what I wanted to talk about, but I'm sure this series will show up on the channel again. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well, because all these tuning parts are not cheap. But all jokes aside, I absolutely love this series. It is just core, concrete arcade racing as good as it can possibly be. And there are so many different entries in this series you can play around with. There's like a dozen or so arcade exclusives. But this game just has absolutely everything I need out of an arcade racing game if it is going for realism. This is the opposite of something like San Francisco Rush or Daytona USA Racing 2. It is a street racing game with perfect physics, an awesome story, a great soundtrack that I hope to let you listen to later, and just so many other things going for it. It has absolutely everything any fan of arcade racing will have. Now, the best part about this game is just the heads-up duel system. You're basically only ever racing against 1, 2, or maybe 3 people at a time, and your only goal is to get to the finish line before them. It is so simple to understand, yet all of the courses and all of the physics and drifting mechanics make you learn them so that you really do feel like you earn a win. That's the best part about a game like this. When you win, you feel like you earned it, and when you lose, you know you made mistakes and you need to get better at the course. But all of this bumping and running, all of this drifting around the courses, throwing through all of the traffic in the cities, both at nighttime, daytime, and dusk, it is just the total package. And I've been playing this series for a ton of time, and luckily you can play it on Windows as well if you want to. I do see these cabinets every once in a while in the US, but for the most part, they're not the easiest things to find, and they do have a progression system. But honestly, right here, 3 cars in that first-person view, all drifting around, bumping and running. It is just incredible. When you're in this game, when you're in first-person view, to get that sense of speed, and everything is clicking and you're driving well, weaving through traffic, there is no better experience, in my opinion, in arcade racing as far as modern games are concerned than this series. Just drifting around this corner, trying to squeeze into first place, missing that Namco truck right there, and making everything work. It just has a sensation that is 100% feedback loop. You do something good, you get a reward, you feel great. You bump the wall like I just did there, you realize you made a mistake, and now you're chasing to try to get that first place finish back. And that is what an arcade racing needs to do. It needs to give you constant feedback loop of your mistakes, your successes, and drive you to that finish line, thinking, if I just go a little bit faster, if I just make the turn a little bit smoother, if I just don't drive into the back of that Namco van, I too can win this race. It's what you want out of an arcade racing game, and it's perfect here. Now, if you're not into this genre of racing though, if you want the San Francisco Rush or Cruising USA style arcade racing games, then you're definitely not going to take as much from the Wangan series as I do. But trust me, even if you do love those games more than a straight arcade racer, I highly recommend you check this out, because I think you're absolutely going to love it. But I just love everything this game does. The graphics are absolutely spectacular for what they are, but the sensation of speed is 100% there. I believe that I am going as fast as the speedometer tells me, and I love all of the streetlights going by and the fact that we are actually racing on real roads. And you have all of those different connectors on the bridges, and your car does bump when it goes over them. This game has such a great sense of tactile motion when you're bumping and the screen shakes as you go over those joining connectors. It just 100% works. And of course, because we are in first place, don't worry about the car ahead of us. That's a little bit of a bonus. We're going to be able to take the checkered flag and move on. And just be aware, I am going back and forth in this capture. But in the beginning, once you finally win a race, you're going to get an upgrade. And I do think it's hilarious that the turbo gives you this much bonus for a horsepower. I don't think that's how it works in real life. But this game also has a spectacular soundtrack. I'm assuming it's going to get flagged and I'll be talking about 10 seconds, but if not, go ahead and enjoy and I'll be right back. So you either just heard 45 seconds of awesome soundtrack, or you heard me fill 45 seconds because it flagged. I'm assuming it did, but maybe I got lucky, future me. But moving on into a daylight level, this is the first in the game. It kind of introduces you to the story because this story is deep in the game. Now I will say I know absolutely nothing about the source material for Wangan. I have only played the games. I do not read manga, I do not watch anime, so that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm just here for a pure arcade racing experience, and it 100% delivers. And I love how long the courses are as well. This is not going to be a minute to a minute and a half race. You're going to spend 3 to 5 minutes per course racing through the streets, and that is just an absolute ton of fun. So much so that this next portion of the video is just going to be one race from start to finish. You get a little bit of a story cut before you start, but then it is directly into the race, and you're going to see we have 2 rivals here. We only have one goal: get to the finish line before them, and we have 15 kilometers to do it in. And you're going to be trading off first, second, and third place the entire time. At the beginning, they seem to get a little bit of a speed boost, and you need to chase them down. But it's just going to be classic bump and run, highway weaving, corner drifting goodness, and that's what's so much fun about this game. Whether you're using a wheel like I am here, or if you're using an analog controller, the sense of direct contact with your vehicle and the drifting is just absolutely superb. If you make a mistake, it's because you did it to yourself, and that's all I ever ask of an arcade racing game, to feel like every single mistake is mine and every single success is mine, versus feeling like there was a corner that was just almost impossible not to bump the wall on. And you can choose to play this game however you want. You can do the bump and run like I do. You can try to drift around corners and pass your opponents there. You have multiple options as to what you want to do, and that is just absolutely a blast as we're on this highway overpass here. I even love that they made all of the other traffic vehicles in the game yellow. You know when they're coming, and it gives you time for you to avoid them versus slamming into the back of the car that you just didn't see. And that was a great design decision from the art department and the developers, because you know where the cars are. You just need to worry about what you need to do to get around them. If the cars were darker and you couldn't see them, you'd end up hitting the back of them, and it might not be your fault. And nothing's worse than an arcade racing game than things that aren't your fault. But I love how often this game changes up what it's doing, because a course can last upwards to 5 minutes. When you're finally done weaving through that traffic, suddenly you're going to get a nice turn to drift around, or in my instance here, bump the wall, and that was something that I did make a mistake on. But it's always changing the course layout, it's always showing you something new and something different, so that 5 minutes feels new and fresh and not repetitive. And that's the great thing about this series and about arcade racing games in general when they do things right. You always feel like the next corner is going to show you something you haven't seen before. And I love that they put these fireworks in the background as well, because visually the game always wants to show you something new. And sometimes it's going to constrict your movement as well, putting you on a 2-lane bridge with traffic, so now you really need to worry about navigating around these cars. And you will see that I'm only in second or third place, which means if I finish this course right now, I have to do it over again. And this is what I really love in the middle of the race, when you're getting towards that final third and you're not in first place, having to deal with the course management, having to race a clean line so that you can get in front of your opponent and you can take that win. The entire time you're not in first, you're worried about getting there, and the entire time you are in first, you're worried about keeping that position. And you'll see that that was just a terrible turn, and one small mistake in this game is 100% going to put you back in the end of the pack. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to be pretty damn close to it to be able to see the ending of some of these races. And as you get deeper into the game in later chapters, you really almost do need to be perfect. But that's the fun of this. You learn the courses, you learn the cars, you upgrade them, and you get better at it. It's a learning experience that's a constant feedback loop. The more you play it, the better you get. The better you get, the more fun it is. But it already starts off incredibly fun, and it's just going to get better from there. And this is just a great thing. It's constant fun, constant feedback loop of progression, and I absolutely love the game. And you will see here that I am in front of my rival, but behind a different car, and that car is definitely going to factor into the story. If you've never played any of the Wangan Midnight Tune games, try any of them. Try 5, try 6, try the derivative upgrades of them. You're 100%, if you're into arcade racing games, going to have an absolute blast. But this game, in my opinion, straight 10 out of 10. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.